Hello, everyone. As Beth mentioned, I'm Aaron Longino with Thrive Student Loan Advisors. So today we'll speak about the passing of the budget bill and what you need to know, how how this will affect every federal student loan borrower. We'll speak about income-driven repayment plans or qualified plans, student loan forgiveness, and we'll touch on what it is we're able to do to help.
All right, Aaron, we have never had this before. Our question has already come in before we even touched on anything. And I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be. But the question is, if I applied for a IBR, but I'm going to call it an IDR months ago, October of 2024, should I apply again if it's still pending?
That's not going to go through. It'll stay. It probably says in review. It'll say that until the end of time. Something wasn't done correctly. Which plan? I would have to obviously review your loans to see which plan will work best for you. You absolutely need to do something as to what. Have your loans reviewed, and either myself or one of our advisors will be a lot more specific. Which actually, excuse me, was a perfect segue into the budget bill. So the recent budget bill that passed certainly was big. The other adjectives, I guess, is a perspective question. But some of the things that were in it, it did make permanent the tax-free employer student loan repayment benefit, which is an excellent thing for all employers that want to use student loans as a benefit to employees. It won't expire. It's been made permanent. They've gotten rid of the SAVE plan. Actually, the SAVE plan was thrown out July of 2024. It is not coming back. Anyone still in it needs to transition immediately. Interest is beginning to accrue. By some accounts, it'll be about $350 a month of accrued interest for your average borrower in that SAVE forbearance. That plan is not coming back. Essentially, you're wasting qualified time. Parent Plus loans have been changed dramatically by the budget bill. They'll no longer qualify for any type of forgiveness, but we'll speak about that more specifically. The current crop of qualified plans or income driven repayment plans are being phased out or will sunset relatively soon. Consolidation is changing, forgiveness is changing. Everything federally student loan related essentially is changing. So currently, there are a group of income driven repayment plans or qualified plans for any forgiveness program, whether it's public service loan forgiveness or your run of the mill general student loan forgiveness. These plans use what the IRS calls discretionary income to calculate borrowers' payments. It takes into account things like family size, not just dependents, but the size of your actual family. Um, it uses a percentage of your adjusted gross income and takes into account other factors as well. That's going away. They've come up with a RAP plan to replace it, which will only use adjusted gross income, which by all accounts, by every expert that I've read, um, will not be as favorable to your average borrower. Obviously, there'll be some people that will benefit from the plan, but from every expert account, that'll be few and far in between. Current the current qualified plans will be phased out, which means forgiveness for non-public service loan forgiveness coming at 20 or 25 years will be replaced. The RAP plan will forgive student loans after a 30-year or 360 qualified payments have been made. It'll no longer be 240 qualified payments or 300. It'll be 360 payments or 30 years. Parent Plus loans, new Parent Plus loans taken relatively soon will no longer qualify for public service loan forgiveness. If if those who currently have Parent Plus loans do not take action, then they will no longer qualify for the plans in which forgiveness programs dictate you repay your loans under. Therefore, even existing Parent Plus loans, if action is not taken, will no longer qualify for forgiveness. Excuse me, as I mentioned, discretionary income will be replaced with adjusted gross income, which on average will make everyone's payments by most accounts significantly higher, or at least higher. Some people significantly, but at least higher. What are some of the things you need to know? I'll reiterate this probably throughout this webinar. Borrowers currently in the SAVE forbearance need to transition to a plan that will allow them to make qualified payments. Any federal borrower whose goal for their loans is student loan forgiveness need to take action now. You either need to safeguard yourself against what's coming, or you need to make sure your loans are in a qualified plan in order to be in a forgiveness program.
All right, Aaron, a couple questions that have come in. How do I know if my loans are forgivable after 20 or 25 years? That's a good
Have
question.
your loans reviewed. It depends on when your loans were dispersed. Have them reviewed. There's um, a QR code on every page where you can schedule a free loan review. Feel free to schedule it directly on my calendar with me or one of our advisors. But you need to have them reviewed so that we can review each individual loan and see when it was dispersed to determine what it is you qualify for.
How is the eligibility going to be determined for WRAP plans?
The quick answer is your loan type. The better answer is to have your loans reviewed. Most federal borrowers will want to safeguard themselves against what's coming and have their loans forgiven before 30 years and not repay them with only adjusted gross income. By most expert accounts, the RAP plan will not be as favorable to borrowers as the current plans. You are able to be grandfathered into the original income driven repayment plan. Have your loans reviewed and see if that's right for you.
What happens if I don't change the type of plan that I'm on?
Your options will be greatly diminished. Anybody who's ever spoken to me, they'll know I take great care not to create a false sense of urgency. This is not a drill. If student loan forgiveness is your goal, you need to have your loans reviewed sooner rather than later before these changes take effect, and you won't have any other options. You'll be pigeonholed, or you'll only be able to enroll into the RAP plan. Um, you're a lot of millions of federal borrowers will not be able to afford it, or it'll add 120 months to the repayment period before the loans are forgiven. This is not a drill. If you have federal loans, you need to have them reviewed sooner rather than later.
I'm in the SAVE plan. I'm also enrolled in public service loan forgiveness. I'm only 8 payments away from loan forgiveness. Can I continue on the SAVE plan to get to my loan forgiveness?
Technically, technically, you are not in public service loan forgiveness. Public service loan forgiveness dictates you make 120 qualified payments. You cannot make a qualified payment under the SAVE plan. Have your loans reviewed. You've essentially wasted a year of qualified time. You need to transition all 7.7 million federal borrowers currently in a SAVE forbearance need to transition out of that plan if it's affordable. If it isn't affordable, you can't pay what you can't pay. This may be a safer option. But if it's affordable and you want to qualify for forgiveness, you need to be transitioned out of SAVE sooner rather than later.
Can I start making repayments before I graduate?
No, not with federal student loans. Your loans are in a status of in school. You can't place them in any plan or program. They can't accept the payment other than interest payments, but you have to specifically tell them it's for interest. But you can't make any payments towards your actual student loans. No.
And we've gotten this question before, and I'll add on to that question. So, if somebody is about to graduate, what would you say? How quickly should they start thinking about getting into one of these programs? Also, in light of changes are happening, like where are we in August? So, somebody is graduating this fall.
If for those who graduated in May, Your loans should be in what's called a grace period. Once you stop going to school for 6 months or more, you do your exit counseling and let the registrar know that you've done so. Your loans will go into a grace period. The very minute your loan goes into a grace period, or when they're about to go into their grace period, you need to have your loans reviewed immediately. There's still time to safeguard against what's coming. If you're in the majority of borrowers that these changes won't be beneficial towards. As soon as you're graduated, you need to have your loans reviewed. They should be in their grace period, about to go into repayment in 6 months' time. By that time, you can already be in your plan and program, ready to make qualified payments, and you're safeguarded about the what potentially is coming. Not even potentially, but you're safeguarded against it if it turns out it won't work for you.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And for the person who asked the question about graduation, if you want to set up an appointment or use the calendar link, you can set up a future date appointment and line it up with what Aaron just said. So it'll remind you whenever the time comes to do that, because the number of times we talk to people, or Aaron and his team talk to people who have been making payments for years and then get on a program and have to kind of start this clock all over. So about to graduate, new graduates, tell all your friends, get on track to start this as soon as you make that first payment. So you're not one of those people that have already done, on the old plan for years, and then you're going to start at a new plan and the clock starts. Okay, Aaron, questions are coming in fast and furious. I'm just going to take a couple. Um, I applied to be moved out of the SAVE plan, but I'm waiting for the application to be completed. Does it make sense to have a review now, or shall I wait until the process is completed?
It absolutely does. So one of the best parts of my job is I have to sit through community regulation meetings that are tedious and boring. Um, but extraordinarily informative. What your average borrower won't know is that through a court proceeding, it was revealed that nothing was processed at the Department of Education from January through May, which also means things that were submitted in November and December that normally would not have been processed for 1 to 3 billing cycles later. Uh, Things will sit in review or pinned. People like to use the word pending, although I don't believe it actually says pending. But it'll sit there until the end of time. Absolutely. Secondarily, you don't know. You may not be aware. I shouldn't assume if you know or not. You may not be aware as to whether or not the plan you enrolled yourself into or attempted to enroll yourself into is the only plan you're able to be grandfathered into. The current crop of income-driven repayment plans, they are all going away. Have your loan review. It costs you nothing other than the time it takes to do so, but the information could be vital.
All
And they're
right, what
probably not going to enroll you in that plan, depending on when you apply for it. Have your loans reviewed. We'll be a little more specific.
what if I stay and save for now because I don't want to make payments yet? I'm on PSLF and switch later. Is that okay?
So when you do something seems more like a personal family decision. I will leave this caveat. If it isn't an affordability issue, if you can afford a qualified plan now, you are doing yourself an extraordinary disservice staying in the save forbearance. Is accruing interest, you're not making qualified time, and you're quickly approaching a deadline where you'll have no choice. If the Department of Education moves you, more specifically, your servicer moves you, then you're stuck with the RAP plan and you have no other options, whether you can afford that plan or not. This could be the difference in you qualifying for student loan forgiveness and you not qualifying for student loan forgiveness. And you're looking at repaying your loans over the course of another 30 years, as opposed to 120 qualified payments. Whether it's an affordability issue or not, it's between you and your family. But if it is not, you are doing yourself an extraordinary disservice. And I'm someone who's careful, extraordinarily careful about not causing false senses of urgency. But this is not a drill. You're doing yourself a disservice for any reason other than affordability.
That's a good point. Okay, I am on a graduated payment plan. And I guess the question is, excuse me, should I change it? I make over 95K per year and my payments are $215 per month.
I would need to review these loans and see. What I will tell you is a graduated plan is not and has never been a qualified plan for any student loan forgiveness program. Graduated plans are usually one of the three plans where you'll pay the most over the course of repayment. For some borrowers, usually those fresh out of school, they're not bad plans. They start off lower, but the amount that you pay goes up every 2 years. They pay interest first. I've seen people on graduated plans that have never touched their principal until after the first decade of repayment. Have your loans reviewed, and we'll make sure that's the right plan for you. It isn't always, but in some instances, it could be. So, if you have Parent Plus loans, if you even think you may have a Parent Plus loan, you need to be the first ones in line to have your loans reviewed. Parent Plus loans on their own, they've never qualified for forgiveness, but they can be made to qualify. They can be converted to a loan type that's eligible for the plan's forgiveness dictate you repay your loans under. That is going away. People that take out new Parent Plus loans, they won't qualify for forgiveness at all. Their loan will no longer be allowed to be enrolled into a qualified plan. Those who have Parent Plus loans right now, if action is not taken, the same fate awaits them. They will no longer be eligible to enroll in any forgiveness program. If any of you have Parent Plus loans, then you already know traditionally they have really high interest rates, especially comparatively. Um, Undergraduate student loans typically will double over the course of repayment. Parent Plus loans will triple. Without the possibility of forgiveness, the likelihood of them tripling is greater than not. If you have Parent Plus loans, again, I will repeat, this is not a drill. You need to have your loans reviewed sooner rather than later. There will be a point where you have no options. I was going to say they're limited, but you won't have any options other than the default repayment plan. Don't be stuck with Parent Plus loans and no path towards forgiveness.
So two questions came in that basically have the same theme, and I'll answer it. If you have a Parent Plus loan, obviously you want to schedule a loan review. If your parents took out loans for you, yes, they are eligible for a loan review as well. And if you are part of the Thrive, formerly known as Silver Lion Network, and your employer is offered a discount, make sure that your parent tells the advisor the group that you're connected with. So yes, that's a great question. For sure, we want to help as many borrowers as we can, and if it's your parents that took out loans on your behalf, they 100% qualify. My Parent Plus loan, I guess it's a question. My Parent Plus loan no longer qualifies for loan forgiveness. I know that was a question.
Your Parent Plus loan relatively soon will no longer qualify for forgiveness if action isn't taken now. We really should have called this webinar "This is not a drill." If you have Parent Plus loans and forgiveness is your goal, something needs to be done now. Waiting almost isn't an option. You want to do something now, at least have them reviewed. So at least you'll have the information to make an informed decision.
If I have Parent Plus loans and my younger child takes out more loans, do none of them qualify?
If no action is taken on the Parent Plus loans you already have for what I assume is the elder child, then that's correct. None of them will qualify. If you take action with the loans you have already, they'll be eligible for forgiveness, but the ones for your younger child will not. I'm literally in a situation right now. My oldest child's first year of college was last year. I take out Parent Plus loans. This year, I'm not able to take out nearly the amount of loans that I need. The total lifetime total for Parent Plus loans used to be almost what you needed in an academic year. It used to be around 40, 45,000. Um, Now that's the total for a lifetime. I'm someone who's personally affected by this. My oldest loans won't be eligible for forgiveness, the Parent Plus loans I took out. Neither will her sisters when it's time for her to go to college. If you have Parent Plus loans, don't be stuck in a situation that I myself have found myself in. Take action now.
I have 818 qualifying payments plus 9 months of employment under SAVE. Can I buy back the last 2 months for PSLF?
This question is making me literally want to pull my hair out. You need to get out of the save plan now. You likely and have your loans reviewed, and we'll see. You likely have everything that you need. So we'll get to buyback, and I'll answer that question a little more specifically when we get there. But I'm one of the people that's a skeptic about buyback under save, and I'll tell you once we get to that place. Well, I'll tell you now. So a buyback, and I'll skip over it when we get there. It's supposed to be you requesting from the Department of Education forbearance time to be converted into qualified time. They'll make you an offer of the amount that you have to pay, and you're able to pay it in one lump sum to buy back that time. Through court proceedings and through trial and error, through the courts, uh, they hadn't processed any buyback agreements for save. They hadn't even sent any out. Um, Last they updated it, and maybe sent out 1% of over 65,000 did they receive. I'm of the impression that they're simply not going to do buybacks for save time, but you don't necessarily need a buyback. There are other ways to get that time. If you have 118 qualified payments, it's like pulling teeth to get qualified time from these people for public service loan forgiveness or student loan forgiveness. You should not be in the save forbearance. You need to have your loans reviewed like 14 months ago. Have them reviewed now and get your green letter or that forgiveness letter while there's still time. What most people don't realize, most everyone gets denied for public service loan forgiveness. 98% of people that actually qualify for it. It's a temporary extended public service loan forgiveness application that forgives more loans, usually. Those funds are limited. When they run out, there's no guarantee when funding at the Department of Education as a whole is at an all-time low that TEPSLF will be funded. Don't sit at 118 qualified payments. I went off on a rant, and I apologize for that, but I almost wanted to pull my hair out over that. So, as I mentioned, the current crop of income-driven repayment plans that were designed to be affordable for every federal borrower, theoretically, is how they were designed. They're going away. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. If you're someone who are repaying their loans under one of these plans, and you are happy with the plans and the monthly payments, you're able to make your payments, you may need to be safeguarded against what's coming. Do not wait. Do not think that you'll be able to beat the system. Have your loans reviewed now and at least know what your options are so that you can make an informed decision. They're going to begin to phase these plans out relatively soon. If they change it for you, you have no options.
What happens to the plan that I'm in if it gets phased out?
You have no options. They'll put you in their rat plan, and then you'll be stuck there and you can't go to any other plan. If your payments are unaffordable under that plan, then your ability to have your student loans forgiven has just dissipated. You'll no longer qualify to have your loans forgiven under the student loan forgiveness program. Do not wait for it to happen for you. This is not a drill. I'm going to keep saying that. I actually like that. Have your loans reviewed and at least be informed as to what your options are.
Okay. I have 16 payments left. I submitted an IDR application to come out of the administration forbearance on my SAVE plan. It's still saying review. This person did sign up for loan review, so don't answer that part. She did sign up for loan review, but when she looks at her servicer website, it says payment due is $0. What course should she take? This is probably more of a global question. Is there anything in the meat of this question that would be helpful for others?
There's too many questions. You signed up for a loan review. We'll roll up our sleeves and we'll dig deep into the weeds to make sure that you know exactly what to do. But there's too many factors that I need follow-up questions for. When you have your loans reviewed, remind me if it's with me that this was your question, and we'll dig deeper into that one. So most of this we already mentioned. I'll go over it again. There are positive things that the budget bill did. The hardship rule was removed from the original income driven repayment plans. More borrowers will qualify as actually under 15% of discretionary income for 20 years or a 25-year repayment. Have your loans reviewed, and we'll look at the disbursement date for each of your loans and see whether you qualify for 20 or 25 years. These are the things you're able to be grandfathered into if you act now before you're forced into the RAP plan. You'll still have access to a plan that's 15% of discretionary income that may forgive your loans after 240 payments or 20 years. Your payments, by all accounts, will be lower with an accelerated forgiveness. Parent Plus loans, I cannot stress this enough. If you grandfather yourself into and safeguard yourself into what's coming by grandfathering yourself into the current eligible qualified plans, you can still be eligible for forgiveness. There's still time left, but that clock is quickly ticking. Um, Again, it'll allow for reduced payments and a pathway to forgiveness. Although the RAP plan will count towards forgiveness, student loan forgiveness, public service loan forgiveness, these things are true. But by all expert accounts, the payments will be significantly higher, which will price millions of federal borrowers out of the forgiveness program. You need to take actions, have your loans reviewed to see what plans or programs you're able to be grandfathered into. You need to return, if you're able to making qualified plans. For millions of borrowers, they're about to get a lot more difficult to do. And when we say qualified plans, what do we mean? The current crop of income driven repayment plans, they're based on your discretionary income. They take what you make in a year, your adjusted gross income, plus your family size. The difference between that and 150% of the poverty line, they divide it by 12. That's your discretionary income. The plans used to be between 5 and 20% of that number. Now they're only using adjusted gross income. That whole calculation, that whole equation for my math buffs out there that I just explained is going away. And it's only adjusted gross income, which was a component of that equation, will be used to calculate the payments. Mathematically speaking, on average, that means higher payments. Um, Loan forgiveness after a set period of time is going to 30 years as opposed to 20 or 25. But you can be grandfathered into the way it works now, as long as you're placed grandfathered into a qualified plan. And as long as you recertify, excuse me, that plan annually, it still needs to be certified annually. You're able to take advantage of student loan forgiveness as it exists today if you take action. Have your loans reviewed. We'll tell you exactly what you're able to do, exactly what you could be paying versus what you would be paying, how much forgiveness you can expect, if any, and when that'll take place. This is a depiction of the current crop of qualified plans. Everyone assumes when they get their bill in the mail for their student loans, when their loans go into repayment, that's the amount they have to pay. That is just a default standard repayment. Everyone loans begins in that plan. If you look here, this is your average borrower, family of five, $50,000 in student loan debt, makes about $55,000 in adjusted gross income. They'd be expected to pay $530 a month. Over the course of repayment, they would expect to have paid over $63,000, although they only took out 50,000, and that's if they repaid it under 10 years, which I probably have never seen anyone in a standard repayment repay it in 10 years. Versus a qualified plan. A $0 a month payment used to be a possibility that's going away for those that can afford it, which a family of five making $55,000 a year with $50,000 in student loan debt, they would have qualified for a $0 a month payment. Now that payment will be $10, close enough to zero not to make a difference by most accounts. The Department of Education will include a 5% cost of living increase into your projection, which is why you see last monthly payment would be $18. Over the course of a 10-year repayment, this borrower will be expected to pay about $9,675, almost $53,000 less than under a standard repayment, same time frame, but in a qualified plan. This person at the end of their repayment period, which is 10 years because they qualify for public service loan forgiveness, they'd have about $62,663 left of their student loan debt, which the Department of Education expects to forgive, currently federally tax free. This is the difference between a non qualified plan and the current crop of qualified plans that's soon will change. This is why you need to be grandfathered into the current crop of plans, because it'll be much different if you join a webinar this time next year.
Erin, a borrower asked that she's worked for a nonprofit and made payments for the last 4 years, but was never enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan, never enrolled in public service loan forgiveness, and she's just learning about it now. If she starts now, does she have to make 10 years of payments, or can her payments qualify retroactively?
I would have to look at your loans first, have your loans reviewed. There's a possibility we can get that qualified time uh, that you didn't have before from the 4 years. That's not normally how the program works. With public service loan forgiveness, normally you have to begin from day one when both you, as the borrower, and your loans qualify for the program. There are loopholes we are able to take advantage of sometimes. Have your loans reviewed, and we'll see if those apply to you. Now, this is the same borrower, all things being equal. This person just doesn't qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So there's no forgiveness after 10 years or 120 qualified payments, everything else being equal. Even over a 20-year period, as opposed to 10 years, this federal borrower in the current crop, they were grandfathered into the current plans. They still pay over $20,000 less, even though they were in repayment for 10 years longer. You do not want to be stuck with either a standard repayment or potentially the new RAP plan, which payments may be very similar to a standard repayment, when you can still have a $10 a month payment potentially and have over $20,428 forgiven at the end of your repayment period. They're paying 10 years longer and still paid over $20,000 less than the standard default repayment. And by most accounts, probably the RAP plan payment in this scenario would have been similar.
I am a single borrower. I earn $65,000 and I have $120,000 left in my federal loans. How do I decide which plan best fits me now that the SAVE program is gone?
Oh, that's an easy one. Have your loans reviewed. We'll be more than happy to see. It's like you set me up for have your loans reviewed with that one. So
I'm just reading them
currently,
as
the
they
Department
come.
of Education normally has 70 different options for repayment. That's going away. You don't want to be in a situation where your options are limited. Maybe a qualified plan works for you, maybe it doesn't. But you don't want to be in a situation where you only have this plan and you only have this plan. That isn't going to work in your favor regardless. Have your loans reviewed. Take a look at the full array of plans. while you're still able to be grandfathered into the current forgiveness program.
I used to work at a for-profit and I have made 3 years of payments up till now. Now I've just moved over to a hospital that's not for profit. Can I get credit for those 3 years of payments that I made before I moved over for PSLF?
So I'm going to give you two different answers. Yes, you can get credit for them, but not for public service loan forgiveness. You can get credit for them for student loan forgiveness, but now you qualify for public service loan forgiveness, which is by far the best option there is for repayment. But it isn't either or. You can track both. Have your loans reviewed, and we'll be a little more specific, but you're probably going to want to make sure you're enrolled in the public service loan forgiveness properly. So we've spoken a lot about qualified plans and forgiveness. What does that mean? Student loan forgiveness is a program for those with federal loans who repay those federal loans under the direct loan program, which means on their own. FEFA loans, the Federal Family Education Loan Program, Parent Plus loans, Perkins loans, on their own, they do not qualify for these programs. Currently, right now, they can be made to qualify. Take advantage of that before they no longer qualify. But whether it's public service loan forgiveness or student loan forgiveness, you have to make a requisite number of payments, whether it's 120, 240, or 300, soon to be 360. At the end of which, as long as you make those payments under a qualified plan, at the end of that repayment period, everything that's left is forgiven. For those who qualify for public service loan forgiveness, there's the added requirement that you also work for a qualified employer and that you work, they'll tell you full time, but at least 30 hours a week on average, and it can be cumulative between more than one employer. Everyone all throughout the winter was concerned about the May 5th deadline. That's when they began not only reporting um, missed payments, but student loans were also able to go into default, which means you have not made a payment towards your student loans for 270 consecutive days. Your loans are no longer with the Department of Education. They're with a collection company. You're paying 24% interest, 18% compounded every single day. You lose your federal privileges, they'll take your income tax returns, and that is not the worst case scenario. What happens next is by far the worst case scenario. Garnishment, there's an actual judgment against you in a court of law. They'll take 15% of every taxable income you receive, employment income, unemployment, some investments. You do not want to be caught in garnishment. You don't even want to sit in default. I've literally seen people's loans triple while they sit in default. If you think your loans are in default or about to be in default, have them reviewed. We'll come up with options to get you back in good standing.
Hey, Aaron, a question just came in that made me remember that we didn't mention this. Would you just let everybody know what is helpful if they come to the loan review with somebody was asking about their credentials on the student loan website? That reminded me.
So when we review your loans, that's the first thing we're going to want to do. We would much prefer to do so on the Department of Education's website, studentaid.gov. If you can't tell from this webinar, I'll say it outright. I am not a fan of the servicers. I'm of the opinion that they do is in their best interest as opposed to the borrowers. Even their website, if you know what you're looking for, is really nonsensical. So if you could have your login for studentaid.gov, that's where we would prefer to review your loans. Other than that, everything else you'll know. Have your login for the Department of Education's website, studentaid.gov.
All right, a couple of questions came in about default. I didn't even know I was in default. I thought my loans were in forbearance. How can I check my status and fix this before it ruins my credit score or they take my tax refund?
That's a occurrence that happens most often. Uh, Most people don't know their loans in default until they try to buy a house or access their credit. Have your loans reviewed. We'll take a look. We'll see how many, if not all, are in default and tell you what your options are. The problem usually is your servicer will only tell you about a rehabilitation program, which is a 9-month program that you have to negotiate with a collection company. There are sometimes simpler options. Have a loan reviewed. You do not want to sit in default, and you definitely do not want to be garnished. So we spoke slightly about the buyback program. I am one of those people that's of the belief that the Department of Education is not making buyback offers for SAVE, or just enough to satisfy the courts, which isn't nearly enough. There are other options for that time. Have your loans reviewed. I'm going to say, if I see you in the SAVE plan, you need to move from the SAVE plan. I'm going to say it as many times as this webinar will allow. You're doing yourself a disservice if it's for any reason other than affordability. But in essence, a buyback agreement is the Department of Education calculating a monthly payment for months you were in forbearance or that are considered non-qualified time. They'll come up with one lump sum payment that you're able to make to convert that non-qualified time into qualified time for public service loan forgiveness. I do not think they're doing so under the SAVE plan, but I've seen stranger things happen and would be more than happy to apply the one for you or explain to you what your options are. So if you can tell, I'm trying to speak carefully, but I'm not going to make a secret about the fact that something needs to be done to almost every federal borrower now. Historically, in good times, 98% of people that qualify for public service loan forgiveness, they never get it. 98%. And these are the Department of Education's numbers, which means only 2% of the federal borrowers that qualify for forgiveness programs get it. That number is about to be even worse for federal borrowers, in my humble opinion. Usually, the reason people never get forgiven is servicer issues. Your servicers are the people you make your payments to, your Mohilas, your Nailnets, your Air Financials. Mohila said in open court that student loan forgiveness is not in their best interest. They lose money when loans are forgiven. Mohila is owned by SoFi, a private student loan company. They just put out a press release, or Business Insider just reported that they're preparing for the private student loan market to for there to be a boom in the private student loan market because of the changes in the budget bill. You need to make a change now, have your loans reviewed, but usually it's because of servicer issues. They don't properly explain these plans and programs. My point is that's about to get a lot worse because it appears as if a reasonable person would suspect that the private student loan companies are doing everything in their power to get more people to the private student loan market where there is no student loan forgiveness, where there is no public service loan forgiveness, where there is no deferments or forbearance or economic hardship pauses for your student loans. There's nothing but payments and interest. Don't get caught either being left with limited options or having to go into the private, being forced into the private market. It is for some people, but don't be forced into it. We're Americans. We like to have choices.
I was told by Mohila last year that I didn't need to recertify my income because of my repayment plan. But now my payment suddenly jumped and they're saying I missed a deadline. What are my options?
Have your loans reviewed. I'm laughing, and excuse me, I shouldn't. Mohila told millions upon millions of borrowers all throughout the pandemic they didn't need to recertify, and they did. They literally made millions of borrowers ineligible for forgiveness. Have your loans reviewed. And when you speak to your servicer, I hate to say this, but you almost have to know the answer to your question before you speak to them. You'll speak to 4 different people and get 19 different answers. Qualified plans, income driven repayment plans are for 12 months at a time. That's it. They have to be recertified every year. So, what is it that we're able to do to help? As I mentioned, the very first thing we're going to want to do is to review your loans. Without reviewing your loans, we're just speculating. Once we review your loans, we'll tell you what, if anything, stood out to us, We'll make a suggestion as to what we think you should do. We'll run a projection based on that suggestion. We'll tell you exactly how much you could be paying, exactly how long you should be in repayment, and how much, if any, the Department of Education would expect to forgive if you take our recommendations. At that point, you're free to take the information we've already given you. Your first student loan review doesn't cost you anything other than the time it takes to do so, or you can hire us to do it for you. For that part, we have a fee, but we'll be very specific once we see what it is that needs to be done. If you decide to have us do it for you, you also have the option to have us do your annual recertifications, whether it's for your plan or whether it's for your program like public service loan forgiveness, or both, including anything else federally student loan related. Our clients that have us for continued service, as soon as the SAVE plan was thrown out last July, we began in August transitioning their plans to a plan where they could make qualified payments. Now we're attempting to safeguard eligible borrowers against what's coming. And we'll reach out to you to make sure you're up to date about changes that go on in the federal student loan market.
So one of the changes Aaron touched upon in the beginning, so I see that there's a lot of benefit executives on this webinar, is that the 5250 tax-free student loan repayment benefit that an employer can offer their employee was set to sundown at the end of this year. It is now a permanent part of the tax code. So for those that are looking towards their 2026 or even 2025 benefits, and are thinking about that program. I know a lot of you were waiting to see if that was going to sundown, and it has not. It is a permanent part of the code. So if you would like to learn more about how Thrive can partner with you to offer that benefit, reach out and we will set you up with a call about that program. The other question that I've seen a couple that come up, yes, our webinars and our loan reviews are open to you, those of you who are on this webinar, because your employer most likely offered this to you, as well as your spouses, your children. Just have them let the advisor know who your employer is so that if you're eligible for a discount for our enrollment services, then your family members can get that as well. So absolutely everybody is eligible for a loan review, and those who are part of our discount program, your family members are eligible for that as well. So I know you've seen these codes everywhere and hopefully you've already scanned them, but if not, here they are again. Free loan review, returning guest. So yes, if we did a loan review for you already, even if it was a year ago, we really, that was your free loan review. So if you want to have another review, it is $24.95, but that really will go, a long way to getting your loans in the right scenario, especially with these new programs and the ending of programs and the ending of benefits in this short time frame. So we are hoping that all of those that are looking for some assistance will seek help with our advisors or seek help somewhere, because we have been down this road before where there is a timeline and Aaron always says, oh, if I could have helped you last June, or if I could have helped you before that program. Now is that time that if we can help you, now is the time you want to seek that help. So I know we did not get to all your questions. I know a couple questions came in asking about these timelines. What I can say is there's timelines a little bit different for all the programs Aaron mentioned, but time is of the essence. So don't wait. We really have been down this road before where you had these great benefits, then they were done and there was nowhere we could go from there. So use this time to your advantage. Our advisors are available. I know that their appointments are filling up. So if you have to look into the future to get an appointment, do so. Aaron, this was great. Any last comments?
Have your loans reviewed sooner rather than later. This is not a drill.